What's up, guys? We're going to get caught up on Ana and Brian Walshe. I'm your host, Dead Rick, and this is Subhuman. Ana is a real estate professional. She started working for Tishman Speyer, based out of New York City, last February 2022. She just relocated recently to Washington, D.C. It appears that her husband, Brian, stays home and takes care of the kids. Not necessarily because this is what they planned on doing when they were getting married and creating their family, but turns out he's kind of a criminal. See, in 2018, he was indicted on federal fraud charges for selling fake Andy Warhol artwork online. Tricked a dude in California. He had a friend that had some real Andy Warhol art, took some pictures of him, posted them on eBay, sold them for about $80,000. In April of 2021, Brian pled guilty to 3 of 4 counts in exchange for a recommended sentence of incarceration. He had supervised release, restitution, forfeiture. He had to give the paintings back, which makes sense. And he was placed on house arrest, so he wasn't going anywhere. He was allowed to leave, but he had to report and ask permission before he went anywhere. So I imagine he was just home. More details, I'm sure. There's a long story about how they met, who she was married to previously, Brian's past relationships as well. Long story. We're going to do we'll do another episode about that. But they tied the knot December 21st, 2015, after a long-distance courtship. So here's what we know. December 31st, New Year's Eve, they had a dinner party with Ana's friend, Jem. Jem was the owner of a company that Ana used to work for. Brian states, this is coming from the husband, Brian states that Jem left around 1 or 1:30 in the morning, in which they went to bed right after that. The story as it goes was that Ana had an emergency at work in D.C. the next morning, and she had to fly out real. It states that she woke up, gave him a kiss goodbye, told him to go back to bed, took an Uber to the airport somewhere around 6 or 7 in the morning, and I'm sure some facts will come out whether or not she took that ride. Brian also says that on that day, this is the first, babysitter arrived in the afternoon, and he left to get groceries. Brian and Ana live in a town called Cohasset. His mom lives in Swampscott. It's about an hour. Brian said he lost his phone and got lost, or he forgot his phone, or he lost his cell phone. Anyway, he conveniently didn't have his cell phone on his way to his mom's. Got lost. Probably his first time going there, maybe second. Said that he got there, spent about 15 minutes with his mom. Then he left. He went to CVS and Whole Foods, and then took the drive back an hour back to Cohasset. Somewhere around 8 p.m. is when he arrived. January 2nd. Ana's still not reported missing yet. That's going to happen on January 4th. But because we're a little past that date, we know what happened. Hindsight's 2020. So Ana Walshe's cell phone pinged somewhere around their home on the 1st. Brian Walshe told investigators that he took his children for ice cream at a juice bar in Norwell. And on January 2nd, while the babysitter watched his 2 other kids. So they got 3 kids. I didn't talk about that. Looking back, the investigators did confirm that this trip did happen, trip to the ice cream store. The interesting part about January 2nd is that Brian went to Home Depot in Rockland, Massachusetts. He was wearing surgical gloves and a surgical mask, and he bought $450 worth of cleaning supplies, mop buckets, tarps, different kinds of tape, killer shit. So Ana's workplace, Tishman Speyer, they're the ones that called the police. And to Brian's attorney, they called the police because he called them looking for Ana. January 5th, Cohasset police, they announced that Ana is missing and they're looking for help from the public. January 6th, now we got a massive search all over Cohasset. That's where her phone last pinged. It included K-9 officers, members of the community, you know the deal. Everybody was out looking for her. While the search is going on, they got 6 investigators trying to drive north towards Brian's mom's house to try to verify his story of going to CVS and Whole Foods. They don't find any footage. They don't find any evidence of him being. So January 8th, Brian gets arrested for misleading the investigation. They couldn't verify his alibi. Police also can't find any evidence of her taking a ride share, Uber, Lyft, whatever. His arrest for misleading the investigators, they get a search warrant. And what do they find? A bloody knife in the house. That was in the basement. They also found blood. Now, remember when I told you before he was on house arrest and had to ask permission? Well, based on all these trips that he described he never got permission. Oh, And I almost forgot. Back on January 6th, 2-alarm fire breaks out at the Cohasset family house, where the 3 children and the dad made it out safe. The office of the fire marshal said that it didn't look suspicious. He may have been holding back. So January 9th and 10th, while the investigators went north to verify his alibi, they found a lot of different places to look. 45 miles north of the Cohasset home, they went to the Peabody transfer station, which is a landfill, in essence. That's where you collect a ton of garbage, typically from suburbs and cities, and then they transfer that to a big landfill down at a later time. They took out quite a few evidentiary bags. What the evidence is, we don't know yet. We can only speculate. I'm sure there's a lot of bloody things. January 12th, they find that a police report that was filed in Washington, D.C., that way back in 2014, Mr. Walshe allegedly threatened to kill Ana and her friend. On January 3rd, somebody pays a little bit more attention to the police log that was taken when Ana's employer called the police to report her missing. The officer that took the call noted that the company called the husband, Brian, but Brian didn't file a missing person report. January 17th, yesterday, Brian is now being arrested for the murder of Ana Walshe. Big surprise. Fast forward to today, January 18th, if you're watching this some other time, January 18th, 2023. Brian Walshe was arraigned on charges of murder and improper transport of a body in the Quincy District Court. And he pled not guilty. Those are pretty specific charges in a pretty short period of time. The most interesting piece was the reading of the charge, which I'll quote for you now. So Brian uses his son's iPad to perform these Google searches. He's apparently not quite as savvy in true crime as you guys are. But here's what he searched for. And I quote, these are all on January 1st. I quote, "How long before a body starts to smell?" This is 4:55 a.m. on January 1st, a few hours after the party ended, the dinner ended. 4:58, 3 minutes later. How to stop a body from decomposing. 5:20, how to embalm a body. See, he must have learned something from how to stop from decomposing. He's got to get deeper into the facts here. 5:47, so 27 minutes later. 10 ways to dispose of a dead body if you really need to. He probably didn't type that. That probably just popped up, once he started typing dispose of dead body. 6:25, how long for someone to be missing to inherit? Pretty interesting. Ana was very wealthy. She had a portfolio of a couple $1 million. And way back in the day when Brian's dad died, he didn't leave him anything except for good wishes. I don't know how affluent his dad might have been or how mad Brian might have been about not being left in the will other than being left with good wishes. But so 10 minutes later, 6:34 a.m. Can you throw away body parts? Doesn't look guilty at all. I know. Innocent until proven guilty. 9:29 that morning. So maybe he took a nap. Maybe he was busy doing something else. We have a 3-hour gap. Brian wants to know, what does formaldehyde do? 9:34. How long does DNA last? 9:59. Can identification be made on partial remains? 11:34 a.m. Dismemberment and the best ways to dispose of a body. 11:44. How to clean blood from a wooden floor. 11:56. Luminol to detect blood. 1:08. That afternoon, he must have ate lunch. What happens when you put body parts in ammonia? 1:21. Is it better to throw crime scene clothes away or wash them? 12:45. Hacksaw, best tool to dismember? 1:10. Can you be charged with murder without a body? 1:14. It's got a new idea. Can you identify a body with broken teeth? 1:02 p.m. I don't know why we're going backwards here. What happens to hair on a dead body? 1:13. What is the rate of decomposition of a body found in a plastic bag compared to a surface in the woods? And 1:20. Can baking soda make a body smell good?